What's up, everybody? This is Trey Biddy with HawgSports.com, HawgSports.com. Well, it's been an interesting weekend without football. Great basketball game between Arkansas and the Purdue Boilermakers. Hogs winning 81-77 in overtime. We've got that to talk about. We've got to preview this Florida game coming up, and we're going to be joined by Danny West and Andrew Ellis to help us do that. All that and more on today's episode of Hog Sports Live. Plenty of ways to watch and listen to the show. If you haven't checked us out on Facebook Live, you can watch us there where we're always streaming live. We're also available on YouTube. Be sure to like or thumbs up either of those channels, whichever one. I don't even know which is which on those, but be sure to give us a thumbs up or a like on both of those channels. Throw us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify if you haven't done so already. We're available anywhere else you can think of to find your favorite podcast. And subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't done so already. Just take a minute. Most of the people that watch the videos aren't even subscribed to the YouTube channel. So if you haven't done that, then take a minute to do so, please. All right. Hog Sports, by the way, is just $1 right now at HawgSports.com. Where to start today? Let's go with kickoff time. Kickoff time announced for Arkansas and Auburn. That's in 12 days. Today is Monday, October 30th, day before Halloween. So that is 3 o'clock. On November 11th. So 3 o'clock in Fayetteville on November 11th. That's 4-4 Auburn, 1-4 in the SEC versus Arkansas, which is 2-6, 0-5, obviously. They'll add a game to that by the time that comes along. It's a welcome change because Arkansas has been involved in a lot of 11 o'clock games. That's what happens when you lose. You get hit with 11 o'clock games. You know, they played Texas A&M in Arlington at 11 a.m., and then they had the 6:30 game against Ole Miss in Oxford, and then they played Alabama at 11 a.m., Mississippi State at 11 a.m. They'll play Florida this weekend at 11 a.m., and then a nice reprieve from that at 3 o'clock against Auburn in Fayetteville. Some call it a must-win game. What do you guys think? We'll talk about that in a little bit. Arkansas and Florida. Arkansas is plus 6.5 against Florida in Gainesville. Plus 200 on the money line and 49.5. That all according to the Bet Saracen app. If you haven't checked that out, you can just go to Bet Saracen. And, I mean, Bet Saracen kind of going with what has happened for Arkansas in the recent past. A lot of one-score games. And losing a one-score game. That's what they've got Arkansas picked to do in this one. Basketball team, what a great game. I was there in Bud Walton Arena, and it was fun. You know, I think it's probably a different crowd than what's usually in there. There's a lot of students, maybe their first opportunity to watch the Razorbacks, guys, you know, people who are freshmen, but a lot of people sitting in different seats and those kinds of things because it was a single game ticket. But I just thought it was, I don't even know where they go. Like, who do you start? I mean, I've got an idea of who I like in my head, but you could go so many different combinations. A lot of really, really good players. And, Chandler Lawson and Trevin Brazil down low. I mean, you go Mekhi Mitchell, who didn't have that great a game down low. Trevon Mark, L. Ellis, Caleb Battle. Devo Davis, where does he fit in? With Devo, you either get good Devo or bad Devo. Usually you get good Devo, but didn't have his best game, I didn't think. But, I've heard people say, like, sit Devo. But Devo, I mean, the thing about him is, he'll lock down. We forget about what a great defensive player he is, but plenty of great options for the basketball team. Going to be a really fun year. I think that was what was evident in this one. And, you look at the schedule that's coming up here. We have to wait till November 6th. Before we get another game. That's at 7 o'clock in Bud Walton Arena. Again, SEC Network Plus. Appreciate everybody watching the How to Watch video. Those get so many views. Like, I can't not do the How to Watch video just because it's going to get like 22,000, 25,000 views. But I'm certainly happy to help everybody out because it gets confusing for some people on SEC Network Plus. But the next few games are going to be Alcorn State, Gardner-Webb, Old Dominion, UNC Greensboro, all SEC Network Plus. And then Bad Boy Motors, Battle for Atlantis. Curtis Wilkerson will be there covering it for Hog Sports. What a lineup. Stanford, and then you play Memphis or Michigan, and then TBD on the other game. But that's 3 straight games. And then you get, it's just 5 days after that. You're going to come back from the Bahamas, and 5 days after that, you host Duke in Bud Walton Arena, and then it's Furman, then Oklahoma. And then you have a little stretch here with Lipscomb, Abilene Christian, UNC Wilmington, and then you're in conference play. This is a schedule. This is a beefy schedule. And the good news is Arkansas's got the team to play it. I don't want to go too much into basketball stuff because if you guys haven't checked out Curtis Wilkerson on Hog Hoops Live, our sister channel, that you can see his full breakdown on how things played out in the game. But man, Trevin Brazile, great to see him back out there. 15 points, 5 rebounds, 3 steals. Great game by Trevin Brazile. I don't know which 5 I like best. I like a lot of them. It was exciting. Good to see basketball back. And looks like we can, I don't know. You never want to say buy into it all and stuff. It's still very early, but after the way last season went with the basketball team with all the freshmen and the hype that was going into the into the season, it just didn't quite play out. They finished very strong, made the NCAA tournament and everything, but that's kind of what you get with a very young team like that. You kind of watch them grow, and obviously the injuries and stuff were an issue for them last year, but man, they got some guys that can shoot and they're so deep and veteran. Could be really fun. Curtis has a breakdown of who he thinks is going to start. He thinks it's going to be Ellis. I would agree with Layden Blocker. How good did Layden Blocker look in the action he got? And then he's got Devo Davis. I think you could go either way with Devo Davis and Caleb Battle. Obviously, Devo brings you a lot of defense. Caleb does too. But, man, I really love the way he shoots the ball. Small forward, Tremont Mark. And he's got Joseph Pinion after that. I'm kind of thinking maybe, Davenport. I kind of think they would bring in Davenport next at the small, and then Trevin Brazile at forward, and then either Davenport or some kind of rotation there with Chandler Lawson, Mekhi Mitchell. Not a rotation, but you know what I'm saying. So they could go a lot of different ways, and we'll probably change our mind a lot. This is Curtis's 2.0 basketball depth chart. So if you're changing your mind about your internet service, you should check out our friends at Ozarks Go. You can reach them at ozarksgo.net/hog. That's HAWG, or call them at 479-684-4900. You're going to talk to somebody local if you reach out to them. I say this every time, but I've had Ozarks Go for 2.5 years, and I've never unplugged my router and replugged it because the internet stopped working. It's worked every time. I've never had to unplug it. Is there a better selling point than that? Lightning fast speed, and it never goes out. I never even think about it. Nobody's coming to me, hey, Dad, my internet's not working. Honey, can you fix her internet? It's not working. I don't know. I'm trying to. I'm unplugging it and plugging it back in. You know how frustrating that is? I've been there before. You have too. If you're there right now, give our friends at Ozarks Go a try. Check them out to see if they're available in your area. Think Northwest Arkansas. If you get Ozarks Electric, you probably get Ozarks Go. Oklahoma, Missouri, for our friends listening out there, might be available in your area also. 479-684-4900 or ozarksgo.net/hog. Injury updates. Rocket Sanders could be back. You never know. You never know when it comes to injuries. Sam Pittman's about as honest as they come, but when it comes to injuries, you just never know exactly. He's back. Does that mean he's back at practice? Does it mean he's observing? Practices are closed this week. Sorry, I've got a little tickle in my throat, so I'm going to go probably in and out every once in a while. But practices are closed this week. Why are they closed? Obviously, they fired Dan Enos last week, or week before last. They had a bye last week. But they fired Dan Enos, and, offense could look a lot different. According to Pittman, they're paring it down, taking 30% of the offense out. I hope they're taking the 30% of the offense out that's similar to the 30% of the offense that Chad Morris installed. You knew I was going there, didn't you? When he said 30% of the offense is going out, I immediately thought about the 30% install offense run by Chad Morris. So hopefully it's that kind of stuff that's going out of this thing. But Arkansas has obviously got, interesting stuff ahead of them coming up. This is a big month for Sam Pittman. But this game's at 11 o'clock, as I mentioned, ESPN2. I don't know if I mentioned that the network is on ESPN2. But Rocket Sanders is back, according to Pittman. Don't know if he was Rocket's kind of targeting this game. I kind of thought with the language that was used with him, sitting out the last game the last several games, that maybe he was done. Maybe he was done for his Arkansas career. So good to see that he's potentially going to be back out there. Now, is Sam Pittman hiding whether or not he's going to be available? In part with the changes that they're going to have in offense. I think we're going to see more up-tempo. We're going to see more of the things that KJ's been good at in the past. And hopefully get this thing back on track. Sam Pittman needs it. He needs this one. I mean, you're talking about 7 losses in a row if they don't get it done in this one heading to the Auburn game. Nudie McLaughlin, Pittman said he was fine to play. And I noted, in the pregame warm-ups last time against Mississippi State, okay, not only is he going through warm-ups, but he's also taking contact, so Nudie should be able to go. But he didn't play. Why wouldn't he play? Pittman says he not one of their starters. Dwight McLaughlin's not one of their starters? That doesn't add up, does it? Something else. That doesn't add up to me. He's obviously one of your starters. So why didn't he play on Saturday? I know the defense played well. It's not a problem. It's like they got plenty of options, I guess. But I think it's really surprising that McLaughlin didn't play against Mississippi State and he was cleared to play. I don't know. What do y'all think about that? Sounds interesting to me. I think we're probably going to see him in a significant amount on Saturday also. What's the case for Sam Pittman right now? The case for and against Sam Pittman being retained. He's got 4 games here. They're 2-6. They're 0-5 in SEC play. Okay. The Mississippi State game was the worst offensive performance since Arkansas has been in the SEC in year 1. I can lay them out to you if you want me to go down the list and tell you all the terrible home games that they've had, but nothing compares. I went all the way back, looked every single home loss, and the only thing that compares to this offensive performance since Arkansas joined the SEC was, you guessed it, 10-3 to FCS member, then Division II, the Citadel in 1992. Arkansas lost 10-3. Jack Crow was fired immediately after the game, and then Dan Enos obviously was fired immediately after this Mississippi State game, which, is the most justified firing in Arkansas history, both of those. Those are the 2 most justified firings in Arkansas history after the 2 worst offensive performances, over the last, 32 years. What Arkansas did on offense kind of reminded me of what Auburn did in 2012. If you remember, Auburn, Gus Malzahn left. They had that great year in 2010. 2011 was pretty good. But then he left to take the Arkansas State job. They brought in Loeffler. Is that how you say it, Scott Loeffler? They brought in him, and they decided they needed to move to more of a pro-style offense. The thing was, Kyle Frazier's the quarterback. He's played under Josh Floyd at Shiloh Christian, which is a Gus Malzahn disciple. He's never run any kind of pro-style type of offense. And long story short, they go 3-9 and fire Gene Chizik 2 years, 3 years total. 2 years, but basically 2 years after they won the national championship. I mean, no SEC school, I don't think, would stand for the record Arkansas has if they continue down this path without firing their coach. Does that apply to Arkansas? If we consider where Sam Pittman has been, how they've lost these games this season. I've broken it down. They've lost, to me, the only really they're all, nobody likes losing. It's unacceptable. I get it. But individually, each game, I'm not saying it's an acceptable loss, but it's you can almost understand it, individually. It's when you lay them all out one after another. That's when it becomes really unacceptable. Even when you lay 3 of them out, it's just so they've lost by an average of 6 points. To me, the Mississippi State game is the only one, that stands alone, not including anything else that's gone on, where you say, this is completely unacceptable. It's completely unacceptable. And, yeah. So, the case for firing Sam Pittman is all stuff that's happened. Everything that I've mentioned says, fire him, right? The case for keeping Sam Pittman is more hypothetical. It's more hopeful kind of things, win these next 4 games. Win 3 of these next 4 games, Win 2 of these next 4 games and not get the crap kicked out of you in any of them. It's looking a little shady there. Win 1, obviously FIU, then, that's probably it. 3-9 is probably it for Sam. So he's got to finish pretty strong here. And with each one you win, 2, 3 to 4, becomes more and more likely. If he wins all 4, then he's here. He's going to stay. He saved his job. If he wins 3, I would lean to him saving his job. 2, I don't know. So it's all hypothetical moving forward with the case to keep him. I would say another kind of way to look at it, is it really year 4? When you consider the struggles that they had in 2020 with the faster, it was basically Sam Pittman and 2 assistant coaches going out and recruiting a class that, wasn't very good. They have 2 players still on the team from this class. This should be a hefty lot of redshirt juniors and seniors, and you got 2 players, Shad Stewart and Dominic Johnson, the only 2 players left from that class. Is it really year 4 for him in that regard? And then 2021 comes along, you've got all these COVID restrictions. A lot of the players that they saw from that, that they signed from that class, a lot of those guys, they saw for the first time when they enrolled. They weren't able to face-to-face recruit. They weren't able to go out and evaluate. They've got 11 players left from that class, which I think is probably pretty remarkable. 5 of those guys, 4 or 5, I think 5 of those guys haven't really played. Either haven't played at all or haven't really played that much. So some issues that they went through. And I know you say everybody had those issues. Well, not really. 2020, they didn't have those issues unless you had a coaching change. And a lot of those coaches were former head coaches, taking over jobs. So they had that bit of, transition. The 2021 issue was a bigger deal for Pittman and company because they were coming off of, 2-win seasons. They were in the midst of a 3-7 season during the COVID year. And you're having to recruit this class based off that, and you can't go visit them. You can't build relationships versus, other coaches have been able to go out and do that. They've been able to build those relationships, okay, and over time because they've been, they've had guys come in for junior days and things like that before all the COVID stuff broke out. So it's not fair, though, to mention those things, to mention the struggles they had in 2020 and 2021 without also mentioning the fact that you can go out into the transfer portal and quickly change things. Look at what they've done with the defense. So, that's probably, the difference. However, everybody else has had access to the transfer portal also, just like Pittman has. I still think this is the best roster, mainly because of the defense that Pittman has had at Arkansas. They've obviously got issues and holes on offense. The defense is pretty loaded up, pretty good defense. Again, I'm just devil's advocating you. I'm not sitting here trying to convince you why you should change your mind or why you should think that Sam Pittman should stay or not. I'm just telling you the argument and the case for Sam Pittman versus the case against him. And none of it really matters unless they start winning. Okay, this is all just talk right now. But look at the changes they made on defense. Look at who could be coming back on defense. Now, I don't think Landon Jackson will be back, but Jashad Stewart, Nico Davier, Quincy Rhodes, Eric Gregory, Keevy Rose, Cam Ball, Torian Carter, Anthony Booker, Jaheim Thomas, Chris Paul, Jordan Crook, Brad Spence, Jaden Johnson, Hudson Clark, Lorando Snacks Johnson, Malik Chavis, TJ Metcalf, Dwight McGlothern, Jalen Braxton. I don't know if Dwight will come back or not. Jalen Braxton, Jaheim Singletary, Quincy McAdoo, Keon Stewart could all come back on defense. All have the option to have at least one more year to come back. Do you just blow this whole thing up? Because I've seen coaches, obviously you carry a coach over from the previous coaching staff. I've seen that. I've never seen a coordinator retain. So that would mean probably, Travis Williams, Marcus Woodson, Darren Wilson, Deke Adams, probably most likely all gone. And also probably losing a lot of players to the transfer portal, hemorrhaging players. And you have a manageable schedule coming up. The question is, can Sam Pittman fix this offense? And get the offense, make the changes on offense. Where they're just an average offense with this defense, they can have an average offense in this defense. It's the best defense they've had since 2014. Best defense they've had since 2014. And what your expectations are, it doesn't really matter. The fact of the matter is the last 15 years, Arkansas is generally if they're not dead last in defense, they've been near the bottom most of the time the last 15 years. 2024 recruiting class, another thing to look at. If Pittman's fired, then they lose all the out-of-state commitments and some of the in-state commitments. They have 3 top 100 prospects. They've never had more than one in a class since 24/7 Sports started doing it in 2010. And Ashton Bethel Roman would make it 4, but he's number 112 overall. He just slid out. It used to be 4. So those are some of the arguments, I think, to keep Pittman. Obviously, the reasons to fire him are a lot harder. They're the things that have happened. The reasons to keep him are, the things that they're doing in recruiting, the things that he's done with the defensive staff. I guess that's, probably, more tangible than some of the other stuff that I'm talking about. But none of it matters if, you don't win. I just think it would be – and you almost guarantee that 2024 is going to be tough. I mean, you'd have to go out and make some kind of huge splash hire that just shocks the college football world. Is Arkansas going to do that? I don't know. I think it would maybe be more like a surprise hire, but like 2024, you're going to lose a lot of guys. You're going to lose more than you gain in the transfer portal. It's the new era of SEC, but it's a manageable schedule, more manageable than it's been in the past few years. So it's just like, why does it have to happen? Like, why does this have to be the year, the do or die year? And, if it doesn't work out in 2024, then, Pittman will be fired and you do it all in 2025. So, and really in 2024, it can't be like some, 7-win season. It's got to be something, it's got to be something, like something special in 2024. Because I think going 6-6 or something would mean, it's over. That's what I think. I've heard talk about buyouts and stuff like that. Oh, the buyouts don't mean anything. They knew that's the buyout. They know when they fire a coach. They know when they hire a coach that he's going to eventually be fired. They know that buyout is going to have to be paid. It's not like they're just like, oh man, we got this buyout now. I didn't think about that. You think that's how it's going? That's not how it's going. All right. I'm running a little late on Andrew Ellis, but I want to get to him now. Where's my guy, Andrew? There he is. We got to get a new picture for Andrew. He doesn't look like that anymore. He's got a stash. Got a good-looking stash. For those of you who hadn't followed Andrew Ellis, you can follow him at Andrew Ellis 24/7 on HawgSports. Does a bit of everything. Andrew, how's it going, man?
I'm doing great. I was just listening to you compliment my beautiful mustache, and
yeah.
I was appreciating it. I was feeling proud.
It's kind of like early days Nate Allen, I think.
I think we can find a better example for that, but I love Nate. Nate's the man, so I'm not going to complain too much about
it. I didn't think you would like that one. Andrew, you went to the basketball game on Saturday. What did you think of everything? What did you think of the environment there in Bud Walton?
All right, Trey, I'm just going to tell you right now, look, it's an exhibition game. We're not here to overreact. And, I'm a professional, so that's not one thing I'm going to do. I'm not going to sit here and react crazy to one game. All that being said, this is the best team Muss has had. They're going to have the best regular season. They're going to have the best regular season for sure. And I don't want to spoil too much because me and Curtis got a cool little bold predictions article coming later in the week.
Uh-huh.
But, man, I just tell you what, I mean, I was also there last year in Austin when they played Texas and got hammered 90-60, and a little bit different situation. You had to travel, and you had a freshman team instead of a veteran team. But I think we can all agree this team's much further ahead of schedule, and we expected that to be the case. That's kind of what we all said, and we all thought we were smart and patted ourselves on the back for being like, oh, this team will be different considering it's a completely different roster, and they're all adults instead of 19-year-olds.
Mm-hmm.
But, it looked that way on Saturday, where it looked like a team that was much closer to their peak form. Now, they're not at peak form. There's still plenty of room for improvement and plenty of developments that I think are going to change in the next few months here. And I think what's so exciting is, like I said, just how well they fit in and how ready they looked for that challenge. Because I really wouldn't have held it against them had they lost that game by 9 or just kind of not been able to, like maybe Purdue was a little cleaner, a little bit ahead of schedule and had their set in and, defensively their rotations. But I thought on the defensive end, I thought it was pretty much a masterclass by Musselman in terms of just completely – they didn't take away Zach Edey from the game because you can't do that with a guy who's 7'4", the National Player of the Year. But, they made life as difficult on him as possible. And, this team from a buy-in standpoint defensively, we saw even the older teams Arkansas had under Musselman, like the ones with Stanley Amude and Jalen Tate and all these guys and all these Tony, even they sometimes took a little bit of time to figure things out defensively. So I was really interested to see just what it would look like. But guys like Caleb Battle and Ellis, who I wouldn't say are described as not lockdown defenders, all of those guys looked like they were playing just as hard and as if this were a March game, So I don't see any issue with this team in terms of, getting them to play as hard as they want and buy in on that. And I was very pleased with everything that I saw. And honestly, I felt that way before Tremont Mark hit that 3 to send it to overtime before Arkansas eventually lost the game. Like, I remember leading into the last few minutes, I was kind of prepared to write the Arkansas lost but looked really good story, and I didn't even have to do that. It was about as good of a performance as you could realistically expect, and man, what an atmosphere. It was really fun, and credit to the fans for showing up, man. That place was jumping.
Yeah, I mean, what a great way. Not that it kicked off everything. Obviously, you had the red, white, and UT Tyler game, but really a great way to kick things off for the fans and the team. And, Purdue is a team that has most of what, what they had last year coming back, and Arkansas was piecing some things together. Last year's team got to go on the foreign tour and do all this stuff, this team building stuff. But, man, this team already looks more together and obviously, as you mentioned, more mature than what they had last year. I think this is probably going to be my favorite must team, maybe outdoing year one, which wasn't a great team, but that was the team where you felt like, all right, Musselman's, he's got something here. They've got something in Eric Musselman here. So, Andrew, just switching over to football real quick, what do you think is going to happen this weekend in Gainesville in the Swamp with Arkansas and Florida? I mean, this is a big game and a big month for Sam Pittman.
I would say that's an understatement, wouldn't you?
Yes.
These next 4 weeks are going to be absolutely.
Let me rephrase. This is a do or die month for Sam Pittman.
Yes, 100%. And I will say I've had to reevaluate what a must-win game is, because we were going into the Mississippi State game all saying it was a must-win game, and then all of a sudden they don't win it, and we're all still alive, and the sun is still shining, but. And obviously that Mississippi State game led to Danny Nose's departure, and it's not like that game wasn't without consequences. There's plenty of consequences to losing that game, but I still am not 100% convinced that like the end of the road is already upon us. And I feel like so many people it seems like they've made up their mind about whether or not Sam Pittman needs to stay or go or whatever in between, and I feel like everyone's got these such definitive stances on it. And I'm not here to tell them they're wrong. I'm just saying like. There's a very big piece of the puzzle here to play out, and I feel like if there's going to be some success story of like, hey, Arkansas finds something awesome with Kenny Guyton, or hey, the defense takes it up a level and they start scoring 4 touchdowns a game themselves, or whatever it is that's going to kind of breathe life back into this program under Sam Pittman and kind of get the shit back on track, it's going to have to start this weekend, and it doesn't have to be a win. I don't think this is a must-win game necessarily. I think that Arkansas can lose this game and still have a lot of positives to take and still carry it into those final 3 games. Like I don't know what the bar is for Sam Pittman to keep his job, but I think whatever it is, whatever positive momentum they're going to build, it has to start being built right now. I think you really have to. You can't show up at Florida and have a blowout. You just simply can't have something like that happen and then talk yourself into the idea that they're just gonna next week we'll figure it out. I just feel like there's got to be some type of life shown, and I'm really interested to see like what version of this team we see, because I think any of us who act like we know what we're going to see, we're all lying. I mean, we can all say like, they're going to start running this offensively. They're going to be running RPOs. They're going to move. They're going to let less 2 tight ends, whatever. All that sounds fine and great, but none of us have a clue. And we're not even there at practice to have to really get a look on it and start to build some of these observations. So I think that, I hate to say it, Trey, because we're on a show here trying to give our opinions, but I think we kind of just have to let some of this play out a little bit, don't you? It's like, I really am just, I think I can be talked into a lot of different things these last 4 games, but I think this game is going to give us a lot of answers in terms of just helping us understand what we're seeing and what to realistically expect down the stretch. And hey, if they come out and score 50 points and beat Florida, then all of a sudden this phone call next week is going to feel a lot different. But I'm just, they should be plenty rested, should be plenty of motivation, rejuvenation. It should be a interesting atmosphere there in Florida. They seem to kind of bridge. It's not like Florida's completely fallen apart the way that we thought they might when we looked ahead to this game preseason. But we'll just see. I think we should see a team play with a lot of desperation. But we've also been saying that for like 2 months now. So who really knows?
No matter how you feel about it, and you make a great point about this. No matter how anybody feels about this team right now, and nobody's happy. Not the biggest sunshine pumper, not the biggest dark sider in the world. Nobody's happy with how things are right now. But no matter how you feel right now, you cannot really put yourself into how you might feel if Arkansas were to go on a run these next 4 games when you're actually in it, you know? How do you feel about missing practices this week? You looking forward to not going to practice, or you think Sam Pittman making a good call there?
I don't know. I don't hate the call for him, you know, from his perspective. And I actually believe what he said about just kind of like, you know, they practice in the bye week with no one there. Mm-hmm. Obviously, we don't get to see those practices anyway, even when things are going smooth. And I think they probably just enjoyed it, you know, and they probably, you know, when you're in a situation like the Hogs are in, it really is kind of you against the world, especially when you just, you know, fired a coach and it's kind of everyone knows what the situation is. And so I don't hate the decision. Would I have loved to see practice? Sure. I'd love to go there today. I'd love to go there tomorrow, like whenever, just to kind of feel the vibes and kind of see what's going on. Mm-hmm. Maybe overanalyze Kenny Guyton as he coaches up his unit or whatever it is. But I also don't have an issue with them doing what they did. I mean, we've talked about it on numerous occasions off air, but it's like, it's not like they owe us anything. It's not like they owe us these practice viewings. Some schools don't even get them. And so, you know, I'm grateful when we get them, but I'm not like I don't think it's a huge deal necessarily that they're closing practices. Although, like you said, I would like to see what's going on there.
Yeah. All right, Andrew. Anything else to add before we cut you loose?
I do have one more thing to add, Trey, and I'm glad you asked.
Okay.
Guys, we got to start allowing ourselves to let some nuance exist here and there. I feel like so many times, like we've said, people are so set in their ways, and they're so determined that they know what's going on and they know what's right. Just sometimes you just got to receive new information and adapt to it, and like maybe just feel things out and not be so stuck in your ways. Everyone listen to this. Stop being stuck in your ways. Allow some nuance. You're not right. I'm not right. None of us are really right. Let's just see what happens, and let's try to have fun while we do it. And let's stop yelling at Andrew on the internet. That's all I want.
I wish I had the more you know star that comes across the screen to cap that off, or just maybe a little background music.
None of us are right, Trey. Let's just see what happens, and we'll discuss it next week. Let's stop trying to act like we know. Everyone's so convinced that they're correct on everything, and they know what's going to happen with this. Just let it play out, and we'll see what happens, and we'll talk about it again on Monday. Hey, can we agree?
All right, you heard it from Andrew Ellis. It's all a spectrum, everybody. You're on.
Exactly.
You're on. Yeah, different levels. All right, brother. Appreciate you.
Absolutely, Trey. Thank you.
All right, everybody. That's Andrew Ellis. Again, you can follow Andrew at Andrew Ellis 24/7. Covers everything: basketball, football, baseball, and does a really great job for us. The coaches were off this weekend, so that means they were out on the road recruiting. Danny, how you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing good. What can you tell us about recruiting during the bye week? Jump right into it.
Coaches hit the road last week. It's I think it's interesting. You watch how different staffs go about recruiting, especially in the evaluation period. And Arkansas always seems to wait until the bye week to go out and really try to see as many of them as they possibly can, which, of course, by that point of the season, Trey, they're pretty much already done, So what you're really doing is going out and making sure everything's good with the coaches and stuff like that, high school coaches, I mean. So, I think it was a productive week for them. The ones I've heard from, and, they all say the same thing. It was cool to see coach at practice, at the game, whatever it might be. But I think the new rule of letting head coaches go out is really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Coach Pittman got in Central Arkansas, swung by a lot of schools, I believe. Grayson Wilson, obviously your 2025 quarterback. He was there very early Friday morning. I think he checked on Braylon Russell, Wyatt Simmons, Marcus Wimberly at Bauxite, Courtney Crutchfield, Charlie Collins, whole bunch of them. So busy day for Pitt. And then, of course, your new offensive coordinator, Kenny Guyton, got to go out. He was also at CAC with Coach Pitt. I think he also saw Crutchfield and Wimberly as well. I went on down to Warren. Matter of fact, I was texting Coach Hembry at Warren. I said, hey, what time's KG coming through today? And when he got back to me, he said he was there as you texted me that. So I think he was in Warren pretty early, a guy that we need to start probably talking about a little bit more here, Trey. Antonio Jordan, wide receiver from Warren, Arkansas. Anytime you say wide receiver in Warren, you better look out, right? Yeah. So 6'4", 210, 2025, so only a junior right now. Obviously, Arkansas has already offered. He's got Florida State. I want to say Tennessee's on there, South Carolina, maybe a few more by now. But he's going to be a big-time kid. It seems a little bit like Traylon in the fact that he, as far as I know, he's not on social. He doesn't go to camps and all this. So here we go again. Kid could be a freaking stud.
Mm-hmm.
So keep an eye on Antonio. So
it's just the occasional Arkansas
kid
that pops up and not on social media at all. Only Arkansas.
That's right. Hey, I like it though, Trey. I got to be honest, man. And there's enough of them on social media. I can deal with a few that are not. So I also want to mention Coach Fountain obviously went to Alabama. Jimmy Smith was in Atlanta. Huge shocker there, right?
Yeah.
Cody Kennedy went out to the East Coast to check on Kai Greer, offensive line commit from North Carolina. I'm just running through it here. Tight ends coach Morgan Turner spent his day around the Tulsa area. Also shot up to Derby, Kansas, where they've got a big 2025 tight end target, and Desan Brame right outside of Wichita there. So, a little bit of everything inside your typical blueprint. As far as Arkansas's footprint, I should say, Coach Wilson was in Dallas area. Coach Woodson, I think he stayed in state as well. He was at the Parkview game. Again, another 2025. That seems to be the trend of this conversation so far. So in addition to checking on all of your current commitments, obviously you're trying to get a head start and make as many of those 2025s feel as important as you possibly can. So a lot of that going on. And don't know if I finished the thought there, but Amarian Robinson there at Parkview High, he's 4-star safety, big time kid in the state next year. So No surprise they would go see him. Speaking
of footprints, if you're interested in knowing if Ozarks Go is in your footprint, you can reach out to them at ozarksgo.net/hog. That's HAWG. You can call them at 479-684-4900 for lightning fast internet speeds. If you're disappointed with what you've got going on right now, as I always say, again, I've never had to unplug and replug my router. Ozarks Go just works. It's a local company. So when you call them at 479-684-4900, you are going to talk to somebody from around here who probably knows what's going on with the Razorbacks. So check them out, ozarksgo.net/hog. Several different tiers of internet speed. I use the Multigig, which is 2,500 megabits per second. I've used Gigabit in the past, which I think is great for most families, 1,000 megabits per second, and they offer several different tiers. They're not going to jack up your rate in year 2 either. They're just going to keep it. They're going to keep it the same. You'll pay same in year 1 as you pay in year 2. So ozarksgo.net/hog. Go check them out. All right, Danny. I was talking with Pittman earlier today. I was at his press conference, as I'm always on Mondays, and what I found was interesting was there's only 5 players on the roster from the state of Florida. I think Tyler Larko is one of those who's not on scholarship. And he's only recruited 2 of them, both running backs, Rocket Sanders, 2 pretty good ones. Isaiah Augustive, those are his last 2. Eric Thomas is the only other player that he's recruited on scholarship. The others are Joshua Braun, who's from Florida, and Jaheim Singletary, who's from Florida, 2 guys from the transfer portal. You think they need to do more work in Florida, or you think they're hitting good enough areas? I mean, it's the same's true in Louisiana. There's only Devon Manuel is the only player on the roster from Louisiana. Those are 2 states that produce a lot of talent, and Arkansas has definitely gone a different direction.
They have. I thought it was interesting. I just put out my state check, which is basically a 10-year study. Didn't take me 10 years, but you understand where I'm going.
Sure.
Over the last 10 years, I did a study on Arkansas's trends recruiting the state of Florida, and I think everybody remembers Coach B. He put a heavy emphasis in the state, especially early on, 13 through 15, somewhere around there. And then, man, it just kind of dropped off. And I will say this, though. It kind of surprised me doing the study this morning that Arkansas is still offering a whole bunch of them in the state of Florida. They're just not getting them. And as Coach Pittman talked about some today, I think it is a direct result of what's happening in Georgia. They're averaging right now, it seems like a lot higher than this in Georgia, but they've had 3 signees in each of the last 4 classes. So, I mean, you start adding those up, it does add up pretty quickly. But I think Florida, if I'm not mistaken, Florida would still be 4th in terms of roster breakdown by state. Arkansas, Texas, Georgia being 3rd, I think, and now Florida at 4th. Would you say there are only 5 or 6 guys?
I believe 5 or 6, yeah.
But, you think about the state of Georgia, and, if you're only averaging 3 there, and it does feel like more, granted, they've had a couple of decommitments here and there that probably spiked that number a little bit. But What my point is, I think they can still double what they're getting in Georgia. I don't think it's outside the realm of possibilities to average 5 or 6 in Georgia, which probably slides Florida down a little bit further. And it's probably just a common sense answer of, and Pitt's probably right about it, that's where most of their ties is. You think about how many guys on the staff have connections to the state of Georgia, it makes a lot of sense. And I think they're happy with the caliber of player. I mean, shoot, sign me up for a poo ball every year if you can get one, ball. I don't know that we've talked about Jaden Johnson enough this year. Obviously, he struggled a little bit last year, but it seems like he got his stuff together on and off the field, and I like him. So Tyrus Washington, same deal. You got Malachi Singleton last year. I think there's a little bit of a misconception. I know you asked me about Florida, and I'm straight up talking about Georgia, but a little bit of a misconception out there that Kirby Smart is signing 20 to 25 of the best in Georgia every year. That's just not the case. When you look at when they started competing for national championships, 5-6 years ago now, playing in the actual game, barely got beaten overtime. From that point on, they're averaging about 8 signees in the state of Georgia. But they can do that. They're Georgia now. They can recruit nationally more so than they used to be able to, and they were already doing it pretty well. So anyway, I think Georgia is probably one of the reasons you're seeing Florida start to slide a little bit on the totem pole. But I think there's still spot recruiting, as Coach Pitt called it, and there's probably going to be an opportunity or two here or there in the next couple of years to get back in there a little bit. But I'm fine with it because of what they're getting in Georgia.
All right, Danny. Appreciate the insight, man.
That's it.
All right,
you don't want to talk about Georgia anymore?
We got to run. I got somebody at my door I got to see.
All right, bud. See you.
All right. Later, brother. All right, everybody. That's Danny West. Appreciate him joining us. Appreciate all of you joining us as well. We'll talk more about Florida next week and have somebody from Swamp 24/7 coming on to join us, break them down a little bit. But for those of you wondering, Florida is 5-3 right now, 3-2 in conference play, very middle of the pack in offense and defense when you look at the ranking in the SEC, and coming off a 43-20 loss to the Georgia Bulldogs in Jacksonville, Florida. All right, everybody. Thanks for joining me. This has been Trey Biddy with HawgSports.com, and we'll catch you next time.